Ariel, many times we, like Jews, we have to discuss about Israel, about Palestinians, about Judaism, about who's correct, if Israel is correct, we have to do asbara, and we enter in many discussions. Is that correct? How do you enter in this discussion about if Israel is doing something good, if Israel is doing something bad?
Wow, so that's a big question. So when we teach people how to engage effectively in dialogue about Israel,
Yes.
we make a recommendation to divide the conversation into two parts. One part is emotional, and one part is rational or intellectual. Always start with the emotional, and the emotional has nothing to do with the ideology.
All right.
It has to do with the experience the other person has having a conversation with me, especially if I'm Israeli. The very, very first thing I look for in a conversation with people about Israel is for them to say something to me like, you know, you're not like all the other Israelis. Because I know they have a stereotype. But let's say you're not Israeli. Let's say you're a supporter of Jewish here in Mexico. You have to be very patient. And on the emotional level, you have to listen to the other person. You have to ask them questions. Do not reject what they say. Do not tell them that they're wrong right away. Do not get upset. They say something bad, you say, really, tell me more. How did you learn about that? What do you feel about that? Huh, interesting. So tell me, what do you suggest we do? That's called role reversal. Because if you look at the dynamic of conversations about Israel, it's almost like somebody is attacking us, the Israelis or the pro-Israelis, Jews, and we constantly have to defend.
Yes.
The word hasbara translates in English into explaining. I have to explain myself. I don't want to do that. I actually want to let you explain yourself. So if you judge me and you say, yeah, how do you justify this and how do you justify this, even if you're saying things that are not true, instead of saying to you, that's not true, and getting upset and creating this, I say, okay, interesting. If you were Prime Minister of Israel today, what would you do? And something very interesting happens, and when they answer you, don't immediately say, oh, say, really, tell me more. So, would you do it on Monday? Would you do it this way? Would you do it like that? And go into the detail. Be truly curious. Don't constantly look for holes in what they're saying. Just make them give you more detail. The reason this is very effective is because most people, the ones who stand and protest, have not truly thought through the solution. And so the more questions you ask, the more they're like, oh, well, I don't know, well, maybe we, and they don't know. And that level of uncertainty about their own solution is very powerful. Now let's move to the rational.
One question.
Yes.
When you finish and when he starts, all right, I get that. You know, they treat very bad the Palestinians. There's an apartheid. There is something I know. They have like concentration camps. How do you change that? Because he's going to, all right, he's going to give you a solution. The solution is leave them free. Disappear Israel. Give them a country.
No, I would ask something else. Well, that's what they let them free. Let them have a country. Okay, let me ask you something. Let's say we did. I just want to say for the record, there are no concentration camps, and really the Palestinians pretty much already have a country. They're the only country in the world that can apply to the International Criminal Court in The Hague. They have membership status in the UN. They have funding. But you know, I don't want to argue with you on that. You think they don't have a country? Okay. Let's say we gave them a country. What would you want the borders to be?
He will come, take out Israel, take Jerusalem to them.
You want Jerusalem? Okay, what else?
All Gaza and all the territories that are occupied by the Jews, and
okay.
You know.
Will there still be a Jewish state in your opinion, or do you want to eliminate the Jewish?
Yes.
Oh, there will.
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
Will it be a shared Jerusalem or just yours?
No, it's from the Palestinians. It doesn't have to be.
Now, where would the border be?
At the end of the old city.
Can you show me? Do you know? Let's open Google Maps and maybe you can show me. I want to see. I really want to see what you're suggesting. They don't know.
All right. Yes, I know that.
They don't know. And so instead of calling them ignorant,
yes,
you need to demonstrate it without making them feel bad. And because look, people don't change their mind so quickly. I remember what I said. Well, I said before to you. You asked me a question about, what's the first thing you should do when you come to a debate? And I said to you, you should set expectations with yourself.
Yes.
You should ask yourself, what will I consider a successful outcome of this specific conversation?
Yes.
Now, this person who says Israel's apartheid, you know, they're not going to change their mind in the next 45 minutes. Can we agree on that?
Yes.
Good. In that case, that should not be my objective. Maybe it takes 20 hours of dialogue to get them to change part of their mind.
All right.
What then should my objective be? Having a second conversation.
All right.
So what?
Or making him think
or
about.
making him think, or getting them to trust you.
Yes. All right.
Because if they appreciate having a conversation with you, if they don't think you're locked and that you're the enemy and that you're going to defend Israel at all costs, you'll be like, you know, you've just given me some interesting food for thought. Let me give you some interesting food for thought. Maybe we meet again next week and continue. And I would love to see some of the links that you're reading, if you can send them to me. I would love to see some pictures of the occupation. And my goal in the first conversation is not to change your mind. It's to get you to want to have a second conversation with me. Now, that is only if I believe that I can change your mind.
Yes.
If I think I can't because your
It's
father...
very hard to change that mind.
Now, there's a second option.
Yes.
Maybe I don't want to change your mind. Maybe we're sitting in the cafeteria in school and you and I are having a conversation, but there are 4 other people here.
Yes.
I will then have a very, very different approach.
All right.
Because everything I say to you, I will really be saying to them.
To them. All right.
And so it's hard for me to give you instant
right.
answers. There's an entire methodology. We've developed a 7-point methodology on how to advance a conversation about Israel, you know, paying attention to terminology, using analogies, using role reversal, like I told you before, using cross-referencing, where you compare one situation to another in the conflict. I'll give you a very quick example.
Yes.
When people say to me they think Israel should be punished, and I say, give me why? And they say, well, because they're doing this and this and this. And I said, how do you know? Who said? The United Nations said. So you think we should be punished because we're violating United Nations resolutions, right? We're not listening to what the UN said. So do you acknowledge the UN as an authority? You do. Okay. So if the UN makes a decision, it needs to be respected. Yes?
Yes.
Can I choose when, or any decision they make I have to choose? What do you think?
Any decision.
Any decision.
All right.
You too?
Yes.
We need to both agree to do what the UN
Exactly.
says?
Yes.
Okay. Including the UN resolution in 1947 declaring that there should be a Jewish state?
Yes.
Including the resolutions 442 and 22, right?
Yes.
So what I've done was I've taken one scenario,
Yes.
which is today what the UN is saying about us. I've taken a second scenario and I've cross-referenced them
Right.
because there are a lot of internal inconsistencies in the arguments against Israel. So that's called cross-referencing. Another point is called the Palestinian, the moral high ground, which is never think you don't need to be empathetic just to be right. If Israel made a mistake, if a family of Palestinians was killed, and they were killed because they were sitting inside of a hospital where people were shooting rockets, we had no choice. Don't say, but we had no choice. Wait. Express sorrow. A family was killed. That's tragic. It doesn't mean Israel was wrong, but it does mean it was tragic. And people, they don't acknowledge the tragedy, and therefore they lose the moral high ground. So those are 6 out of 7 different points. I know we don't have a lot of time, but so there's an entire approach to how to do this. But generally, if I had to cut it short, it takes time to convince people, so you need more than one conversation. For people to have more than one conversation with you, they have to enjoy speaking with you. So the first objective of every conversation should be to give people an enjoyable experience.
And for what I hear from you, you don't have to defend Israel or Judaism.
Not immediately.
Not immediately.
Not immediately, not completely. You should choose and prioritize whatever people say. Whatever they say, no rush. I know it's tempting. You know, they're saying things that are wrong. You're like, oh, I want to respond now.
Exactly.
But that feeling that you want to respond now, that's maybe good for you emotionally, but it's not good for what you're trying to achieve. That's why you need to delay gratification. Don't go ahead and respond immediately, even if inside you feel like you should have a stick out, bite it. If people enjoy speaking with you, they will have more conversations with you, and that will give you a greater opportunity to convince them.
Right. And if you are in an audience and somebody from the audience, like for example, in a university, somebody stands up and say, Israeli people are bad and that. Do you have to answer him? Do you have to hear him? Do you have to leave the audience? What's happened in that case is when somebody, when a university starts yelling and saying about the Jews, about Israel, it's correct. What to do?
There are many
because many people want to start and go and hit him. But
definitely not. Definitely not. Because it won't help anybody.
All right.
It won't really get you what you want. Remember,
you have to discuss with him?
Yeah, you could discuss. Look, one of the dilemmas people have is by having a conversation with the other person, am I not giving them legitimacy?
That's correct.
By speaking with you, I am acknowledging you, and I'm giving you legitimacy. And some people say, don't give them legitimacy. But think about the alternative. If you walk out,
yes.
You personally may have not given them legitimacy, but you have not prevented them from speaking, and all you've done really was make it even harder for you to influence the audience because they're going to stay. And so, when I think about myself in a debate in front of an audience, I'm thinking emotional again. I'm thinking first impression, psychology of decision making. The audience will not remember everything the other person says, and they will not remember everything I say. And if he and I start yelling at each other, or she and I start yelling at each other, the audience is going to be like, shh, there they go again. I need to give the audience an alternative. They are trying to make a decision. Think, on one side is the other person, and on the other side is me, and in the middle is the audience. You know who the audience is going to choose? They're going to choose the person who they think is closest to the center.
Right.
So if that person is yelling, and Israel is this, and Israel is this, I might get up and say, there are a few things I understand why you're yelling. I think there's a terrible tragedy there. I think the Palestinians are suffering terribly. And you're probably very frustrated. You're here because you think an injustice is happening and you want to fight for it. And you know something? I don't agree with you, but I respect what you're doing. Good for you. I think we have a different opinion. I live there. I've seen something different than what you've seen. I've seen hotels in Gaza and spa resorts, and I've seen the Palestinians put their own people at risk, putting them on the front line. But it doesn't matter. You're fighting for what you think is right for your people, and I have to say, first of all, good for you. I have a different opinion. Now, by talking this way, listen, what is the audience hearing? When he speaks, they're hearing, I'm not saying words on purpose because their brain isn't listening to the words. They're responding only to the general expression. And then they see me and they're like, who are they going to want to associate more with emotionally? Probably with me. Unless it's an audience of anti-Israeli haters, in which case there's very little I can do anyway.
Exactly.
But what I want people to understand is the whole rational, if all I do is give you the right argument and prove to you the data that'll show you, people make decisions within seconds. That decision is based on emotion. So you have to pay attention to the emotion you create.
Thank you very much, Joel. We have less time. We could be talking about this hours and hours, and between Jews and between, we have like another 100 of opinions, but I think we learn a lot.
That's a good thing.
And we have to be with you in the Cumbre Desafío, learn about that, and have you here more times.
Hallelujah.
Thank you.
Thank you.